Looking for a drill press? These are some of the things that you need to look out for. The first thing you need to do is look at the size of the head of the drill press. Now, the reason you need to look at the size of the head is that'll determine the capacity of material that you can work in. And there are two important sizes to consider when you're looking at the head of the drill press. The first one is the swing, and the swing is the distance from the center of the drill chuck to the back of this column. Now, the swing will determine how far you can get into a workpiece. When you're talking about the swing, it's usually provided in inches. So for instance, this one here is 17 inches, or about 425 mil, whereas this one here is 14 inches, or about 350 mil. So that governs how far you can go into your workpiece. The next thing you need to worry about is the travel. And the travel is how far the spindle can travel down. Now, for a model like this, you're looking at 120 mil. For a model like this, you're looking at about 80 mil. And you can see here there's a difference in the height of the head here and here. So the spindle's contained in the head, and that determines your travel. The next thing to consider is the number of speeds that the drill press has. These days, most of your bigger models have 12 or 16 speeds. In the case of this one, this has 12 speeds that runs from 150 up to 2450 revs per minute. This smaller model actually has 16 speeds, but the usable range is 220 to 2840. So you'll find these days with most of the drill presses that are on the market, all but the very smallest ones will either have 12 or 16 speeds, which is more than enough for most applications. Your really small benchtop models will only have 5 speeds. And that's generally not an issue for your smaller drill presses because they can really only work in a very small capacity anyway, and so those speeds are well suited to that size of drill press. One thing that's important to note is that with all the Sherwood drill presses, they come with a micro switch. Now, what the micro switch does is it prevents the machine from turning on while this cover's open, which is just an extra safety feature that the Sherwoods have got. So with the cover back down again and the micro switch engaged, the drill press can turn back on. Now, as you go up in the size of the drill presses, one of the major improvements that you get in going up in the sizes is the size of the motors. So it's pretty self-explanatory. As the drill presses get bigger, so does the capacity of the motor. One of the great benefits of the Sherwood drill press range is the fact that all of the motors are 4-pole motors. So they run at half the speed of a normal motor, but they have twice the torque. Now, when you're talking about drilling, one of the most important factors with drilling, especially when you're working at low revs, is to have high torque. And one of the great benefits of the Sherwood is that these are all high torque motors, from the smallest one all the way through to the biggest one. So when you're thinking about a drill press, there's the issue of the capacity in terms of the size that it can work with. One of the major things to think about is the size of the drill bits that you're going to be using and in what materials, and that may also determine what size motor you need. Something else to consider with choosing the right drill press is the capacity of the chuck. With a standard drill press like this, this sort of chuck here can hold bits from 3mm up to 16mm. Your smaller drill presses will come with a smaller chuck, say 1 to 13mm. And you can also, as you go up in size to your larger drill presses, this one here will go from 5 to 20mm. It's important to think about that because as you go up in the size of the chuck, the minimum size that it can hold also increases as well. So this one here, that's say a 16mm, can only hold bits that are down to 3mm. You can look at something like a keyless chuck. A keyless chuck here, this is also a 16mm capacity, but it can hold down to 1mm. The other thing to consider is that as you go up in size of drill press, the Morse taper gets bigger as well. So from the smallest up to this size of drill press in the Sherwood range, it's a 2 Morse taper, and that's what it looks like there. As you go up to the bigger sizes like this one and the next one above it, the Morse taper size increases. Now that's important because that's the part that actually sits inside the spindle of the drill press, and you need a good amount of mass between the arbor and the spindle of the drill press, and that absorbs the vibration. One of the enemies of drilling accurately is vibration. Sometimes when people get home and they put their drill press together, you can have the problem where the chuck keeps falling out of the spindle. The reason for this is because there's a small amount of oil that's left on the arbor and also inside the spindle. The quickest and easiest way of fixing this problem is to get a piece of wet and dry, quickly rub it over the arbor, and then also get that same piece of wet and dry and put it up the spindle and give it a quick rub in there. Then when you seat the arbor into the spindle, it'll grip a lot better. Now, of course, as the drill presses get bigger, some of the other things on the drill press get bigger as well. The bigger the drill press, obviously you get a larger base. The post is a bit bigger, so that gives you a bit more support for the table, prevents it from rocking back and forth. You obviously get bigger tables as well. You'll see here, this one has markings along the top. That's because on pretty much all drill presses now you can actually tilt the tables. So if you need to go in at a particular angle, you can just tilt the tables. So there's usually a small bolt underneath the table, and you just loosen that off and then you can tilt the tables. So when it's time to start thinking about buying a drill press, start thinking about the types of material that you're going to be using, the size of the drill bits that you need to use, and also think about maybe future proofing so that you can get the right drill press that's going to last a lifetime. We've got a great range of Sherwood drill presses at Timbecon, and we're sure to find something that will fit your needs.